Echoes call from hollow halls, a voice that creeps and softly crawls. Time stands still, the air is...
Speedway racing is built on precision and control. But during one live broadcast, a dramatic final lap crash did not end with rescue crews. Instead, something far more shocking unfolded before millions watching. Moments after surviving a high-speed fall, two riders turned toward each other and started fighting on the track, proving that sometimes the most disturbing crashes are not mechanical, but emotional. What you are about to see are 10 live television moments where control vanished without warning, turning ordinary broadcasts into shocking events that millions witnessed together, unable to look away as chaos unfolded. It began as a routine breaking news interruption, the kind viewers had seen countless times before. A helicopter shot appeared over a busy highway, a white cargo van speeding through traffic, police cruisers trailing close behind with lights flashing. Anchors spoke carefully, reminding viewers that what they were watching was unfolding live and could change at any moment. At first, it looked like a typical pursuit, dangerous but controlled. Then the situation escalated. The van accelerated to nearly 100 miles per hour despite having a blown front tire. Sparks sprayed from the rim as metal scraped against asphalt, leaving a trail behind it. Even with the vehicle partially disabled, the driver refused to stop. Florida Highway Patrol units coordinated their response, attempting multiple PAT maneuvers. This tactic, known as the precision immobilization technique, is designed to end pursuits by forcing a fleeing vehicle into a controlled spin. It requires careful timing and precision, because a failed attempt can make the situation even more dangerous. The first attempt failed, so did the second. With each maneuver, the van swerved violently, yet somehow remained in motion. Traffic was being cleared ahead, but the risk to other drivers remained high. Studies on police pursuits have shown that high-speed chases often pose more danger to civilians than to suspects themselves. The longer they continue, the greater the likelihood of collateral damage. Eventually, a third pit maneuver forced the van to spin and come to a stop near an overpass. What happened next turned a tense pursuit into something far more disturbing. Doors opened. Suspects jumped out. Officers surrounded the vehicle with weapons drawn. One individual ran toward the edge of the overpass and attempted to climb over the barrier. For several seconds, viewers watched something almost surreal. Officers grabbed the suspect just as he reached the edge. His body hung partially over the side, while multiple officers struggled to pull him back. It was a moment suspended between life and death, captured from above by a news helicopter broadcasting to thousands of homes. Law enforcement training emphasizes de-escalation and preservation of life, even during high-risk arrests. In this case, officers acted quickly, pulling the individual back to safety before he could fall. Within moments, he was restrained and taken into custody along with the other suspects. Traffic stretched for miles. Drivers who had been following the broadcast on their car radios now found themselves trapped behind the aftermath. When it finally ended, 4 individuals were arrested. Authorities later worked to determine the events that led to the pursuit, including reports of an earlier confrontation involving law enforcement. But what stayed with viewers was not just the speed or the tactics. It was that image of a man nearly disappearing over the edge of an overpass, while officers fought to keep him from falling. A moment that could have ended in tragedy. Unfolding live without warning or delay, high-speed chases have long been a staple of live news coverage. Since the 1990s, networks have aired pursuits in real time, believing the public has a right to witness unfolding events. Yet critics argue that broadcasting such incidents can create ethical dilemmas. When situations become life-threatening, should cameras keep rolling, or should they turn away? In this case, the outcome was not fatal. But for those watching, the tension was real. The realization that one misstep could have changed everything lingered long after the broadcast ended. And just when viewers thought the most disturbing live moments were tied to crime and pursuit, another type of chaos began to unfold. Not on a highway, but on a football field filled with pride, history, and rivalry. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you. Nightmare Feelings crossed over 187,000 subscribers in 2025, and that's all because of you. Every single view, like, and share means the world to me. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. This year, we're setting our sights on 250,000 before April 2026. So if you enjoy these videos and haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that button, join the community. Let's grow this together. Now back to the video. Few rivalries in American sports carry the emotional weight of Michigan versus Ohio State. For more than 100 years, their annual meeting has shaped conference championships, national title hopes, and the identity of entire fan bases across the Midwest. Known simply as the game, This matchup is not just about football, it is about history, pride, and generational loyalty. Families grow up choosing sides. Communities organize weekends around kickoff. For players, the pressure is immense, long before they step onto the field. By the time these two teams meet each season, emotions are already running high. Many athletes spend months hearing about the rivalry's significance from coaches, alumni, and supporters. The build-up transforms a single game into something symbolic. Winning brings celebration that can define a season. Losing brings disappointment that lingers long after the final whistle. On this particular afternoon, Michigan had secured a hard-fought victory on Ohio State's home field. It was the kind of win that carried historical meaning. For Michigan players and fans, triumph on that field represented more than a point in the standings. It represented bragging rights, validation, and the continuation of tradition. For Ohio State, the defeat was deeply personal. As the final seconds expired, cameras captured Michigan players celebrating near midfield. Helmets came off. Teammates embraced. For a brief moment, it looked like a typical post-game scene. Then the tone shifted. Several Michigan players moved toward the center of the field, carrying their team flag. Their intention was clear. Planting a flag at midfield is a symbolic gesture in college football. It signals conquest on an opponent's turf. Over the years, similar acts have sparked controversy. One of the most widely discussed examples occurred when Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield planted a flag at Ohio State after a road victory, a moment that drew both praise and criticism across the sports world. In rivalry games, symbolism carries weight. As the Michigan players prepared to plant their flag, Ohio State players reacted instantly. To them, the gesture represented disrespect on their home field. Within seconds, players rushed toward midfield. What began as shouting quickly turned physical. The broadcast remained live. Cameras captured the moment as pushing and grabbing spread across the field. Commentators attempted to remain composed, describing events without escalating tension. Their tone shifted from celebratory analysis to cautious observation. They understood millions were watching a volatile situation unfold in real time. Security personnel and law enforcement moved onto the field to separate players. Coaches sprinted toward the center, attempting to pull athletes away from the confrontation. The crowd's reaction transformed from celebration to unease. Cheers faded, replaced by murmurs and scattered boos. Live sports broadcasts rarely cut away immediately after games. Networks aim to capture authentic post-game reactions and interviews. But when conflict erupts, producers face a difficult choice: continue airing the footage or shift away. In this case, the cameras stayed focused on midfield. For viewers at home, the moment felt deeply uncomfortable. These were student athletes representing major programs, now locked in a confrontation broadcast nationwide. The intensity of the rivalry had spilled beyond competition and into something more volatile. Eventually, order was restored. Players were escorted toward locker rooms. Analysts and commentators began discussing sportsmanship, emotional control, and the pressures of high-stakes rivalry games. Athletic conferences often review such incidents carefully, sometimes issuing fines or suspensions to maintain standards of conduct. What made the moment especially striking was how quickly it escalated. Only seconds separated celebration from confrontation. One symbolic gesture was enough to ignite emotions built over months of anticipation. Sports psychologists often note that rivalry games amplify emotional responses because athletes attach personal identity to the outcome. Victory can feel like validation. Defeat can feel deeply personal. When symbolic acts like flag planting are introduced into that emotional environment, reactions can become unpredictable. The broadcast captured every stage of that shift, from joy to tension, from pride to confrontation. It served as a reminder that even within structured sporting environments, human emotion can override control. And when it does, millions witness the moment simultaneously. But the next incident would not be driven by rivalry or pride. It would come without warning, and it would fall from the sky. Air shows were designed to inspire awe. For decades, they represented the very best of aviation. Precision flying, extreme speed, the roar of engines echoing across open skies. Families gathered to watch pilots perform maneuvers that pushed aircraft and human ability to their limits. On September 16, 2011, the Reno air races in Nevada were underway. It was one of the most prestigious air racing events in the world, drawing thousands of spectators each year. Among the competing aircraft was a modified World War II-era P-51 Mustang, known as the Galloping Ghost, flown by veteran pilot Jimmy Leeward. Leeward was 74 years old and highly experienced. He had spent decades in aviation and was respected within the racing community. His aircraft, however, was far from ordinary. The Galloping Ghost had undergone extensive modifications to increase speed and competitiveness. Portions of the wings had been shortened, weight had been reduced. Certain structural elements were altered in pursuit of performance. Those modifications made the aircraft faster. They also reduced its margin for error. As the race progressed, the Galloping Ghost reached speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour. Spectators watched as the aircraft navigated the course. Everything appeared routine until a critical mechanical failure occurred. A trim tab on the aircraft's tail broke loose. Though small in size, the trim tab plays a crucial role in stabilizing the aircraft at high speeds. Its failure caused the plane to pitch upward suddenly, subjecting the pilot to extreme G-forces. Investigators later determined that the force likely rendered Leeward unconscious within seconds. Without control, the aircraft climbed sharply, rolled, and then plunged toward the ground. It struck near a section of grandstands filled with spectators. The impact happened in seconds. What began as a competitive race instantly turned into one of the deadliest airshow disasters in modern United States history. 11 people lost their lives. 69 others were injured. Debris scattered across the viewing area as emergency responders rushed to the scene. For those present, the shock was immediate. Many had attended expecting a day of entertainment and spectacle. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of a catastrophe. For those watching through broadcasts and news coverage, the realization was equally unsettling. The National Transportation Safety Board conducted a detailed investigation. Their findings revealed a chain of contributing factors. The aircraft's modifications had not been fully documented or evaluated under modern safety standards. Some components showed signs of wear that went undetected. The failure of the trim tab set off a sequence of events that left no opportunity for recovery. The tragedy led to sweeping changes within the air racing community. New inspection requirements were introduced. Greater distances between aircraft and spectators became mandatory. Safety protocols were strengthened to prevent similar incidents. Yet, the most haunting aspect remained how quickly it unfolded. One moment, a pilot was competing for victory. The next, a catastrophic loss of control witnessed by thousands in person and many more through media coverage. Aviation history has seen other tragedies captured by cameras, from experimental flight failures to unexpected mechanical breakdowns. Each serves as a reminder that even in highly regulated environments, risk can never be eliminated entirely. For viewers, the Reno disaster underscored a difficult truth about live events. Spectacle and danger sometimes exist side by side. When something goes wrong, there is no buffer between the moment and the audience. It was a stark illustration of how quickly excitement can turn into tragedy. And it would not be the last time a high-speed event left viewers stunned in real time. Because on the racetrack, where victory is measured in seconds, one small miscalculation can trigger chaos that unfolds just as suddenly. The Daytona 500 has long been known as the crown jewel of stock car racing. Held annually at Daytona International Speedway in Florida, the event marks the most prestigious race in NASCAR and one of the most watched motorsport broadcasts in the United States. Drivers reach speeds approaching 200 miles per hour, while navigating tightly packed formations that demand extraordinary focus. Each car relies on aerodynamic drafting, where vehicles follow closely behind one another to reduce air resistance and gain speed. The technique creates thrilling competition, but it also leaves almost no margin for error. Every movement on the track carries weight. A small steering adjustment, a mistimed push, or a slight misjudgment can alter the outcome of the race within seconds. As the closing laps of this particular race unfolded, tension built across the speedway. Commentators discussed strategy and positioning. Fans watched closely, aware that late race battles often produce dramatic finishes. Drivers maneuvered carefully, attempting to maintain speed while positioning themselves for a final surge toward the checkered flag. Then everything changed in an instant. A minor bump from behind destabilized one of the lead cars. At lower speeds, such contact might have been manageable, but at nearly 200 miles per hour, even the smallest impact can have dramatic consequences. The car veered sideways, its tires losing traction against the asphalt. What followed was a chain reaction familiar to racing fans but no less disturbing each time it occurred. Multiple cars became entangled in what is commonly referred to as the Big One, a massive multi-vehicle crash that often happens on superspeedways like Daytona and Talladega. Because drivers travel in close proximity at extreme speeds, when one car loses control, others have little time or space to react. Vehicles spun across lanes. Some slammed into retaining walls. Others collided with cars already out of control. Sparks erupted as metal scraped against pavement and barriers. Pieces of debris scattered across the track. From the broadcast booth, the commentators' tone shifted immediately. Excitement gave way to concern. Their voices lowered as they described what viewers were witnessing. Replays began from multiple angles, illustrating just how quickly the situation escalated. What started as a slight bump had transformed into a chaotic collision involving numerous drivers. Daytona has witnessed several dramatic crashes throughout its history. The nature of pack racing makes such incidents more likely, particularly during the final laps when drivers push for position. The high speed and close spacing that create thrilling finishes also increase the risk of large-scale collisions. Over the decades, NASCAR has implemented significant safety advancements to protect drivers. Reinforced roll cages, fire-resistant suits, energy-absorbing barriers known as safer walls, and the HANDS device designed to reduce head and neck injuries have dramatically improved survival rates. Since the early 2000s, these innovations have helped prevent fatalities and many severe crashes that might once have been catastrophic. Still, the visual impact of a multi-car crash remains deeply unsettling. As emergency crews rushed onto the track, cameras focused on damaged vehicles and the drivers emerging from them. Some climbed out on their own, raising a hand to signal they were conscious. Others required assistance from safety teams. Medical personnel moved quickly but carefully, assessing each driver before guiding them away from wreckage. For viewers at home, the moment felt raw and immediate. Live sports broadcasts cannot predict when accidents will occur. Producers and commentators must react in real time, balancing the need for information with sensitivity toward those involved. The aftermath served as a powerful reminder of the risks inherent in motorsport. Behind the spectacle and roaring engines lies a constant awareness among drivers that control can vanish in an instant. At nearly 200 miles per hour, there is little room for recovery once something goes wrong. What lingered after the crash was not just the sight of twisted metal and scattered debris. It was the realization that even with modern safety measures, the margin between competition and catastrophe remains thin. And when that margin disappears, live television captures every second. But high-speed machinery is not the only source of danger during live broadcasts. Sometimes the threat comes from nature itself, from ice, from gravity, and from a single miscalculated landing that changes everything in the space of a heartbeat. Downhill skiing at the elite level has often been described as controlled chaos. Athletes launch themselves down steep alpine courses at speeds that can exceed 140 kilometers per hour, navigating icy turns, blind crests, and massive jumps where even the smallest imbalance can lead to disaster. Precision is everything. Timing is everything. At those speeds, there is no time to correct a serious mistake once it begins. Among all downhill courses in the world, few carry the reputation of the Streif in Kitzbuhel, Austria. First raced in the 1930s, the Streif has become one of the most feared and respected tracks in professional skiing. Its steep gradients reach up to 85% in sections. The terrain is unforgiving. Hard-packed snow, icy surfaces, and high-speed jumps create conditions where competitors must combine technical mastery with extraordinary courage. Winning on the Streif is considered one of the greatest achievements in alpine skiing, but simply completing the course safely is an accomplishment in itself. During this particular race, Swiss skier Urs Kreinbühl had navigated most of the course with impressive control. Cameras followed him closely as he approached the final section. Spectators and commentators focused on his speed and precision, noting how smoothly he had handled earlier jumps and turns. Then he reached the final jump. At that moment, everything appeared routine. Kreinbühl launched into the air, skis aligned and body positioned forward as expected. For a split second, he seemed stable. Then something shifted. As he descended, his landing was slightly off balance. At high speed, even a minor misalignment can multiply instantly. His skis struck the icy surface unevenly, and the force of impact sent him tumbling violently across the finish area. His body slid across the snow at high velocity before finally coming to a stop. The stadium fell quiet. Downhill skiing audiences are accustomed to dramatic moments. Near misses and recoveries are part of the sport's appeal, but this felt different. Kreinbühl did not immediately get up. He remained motionless for several seconds as medical teams rushed toward him. Emergency personnel stabilized him carefully on the slope. Within minutes, a rescue helicopter arrived, landing near the finish area. The sound of its blades echoed across the mountains as medics prepared him for transport. Later reports confirmed he suffered a concussion, a broken collarbone, and torn ligaments in his knee. Considering the severity of the crash and the speed at which it occurred, he was fortunate to avoid life-threatening injuries. Earlier in the same race, American skier Ryan Cochran-Siegel had also experienced a serious fall after losing balance on a jump. He sustained a neck injury that required medical evaluation and removed him from further competition. The back-to-back incidents intensified ongoing concerns about safety on the Streif. The course has a long history of severe accidents. Over decades, numerous competitors have suffered fractures, concussions, and other significant injuries. Advances in equipment, including stronger helmets, improved ski design, and protective gear, have helped reduce fatalities. Still, the inherent danger remains. What made Kreinbühl's crash particularly unsettling was the contrast between control and chaos. Only seconds earlier, he had been skiing with confidence and precision. Then gravity and momentum took over. Live television amplified the emotional impact. Cameras captured the fall in detail, the stillness that followed, the rapid response of medical teams. The helicopter lifted off with an injured athlete inside. Commentators spoke carefully, avoiding speculation while acknowledging the seriousness of what viewers were witnessing. After the race, several athletes and analysts raised concerns about the design of the final jump. Some argued it launched competitors too far into the air at extreme speeds, increasing the risk of unstable landings. Discussions about potential course adjustments followed, highlighting the ongoing balance between spectacle and safety in elite skiing. The incident served as a powerful reminder of the risks athletes accept in pursuit of excellence. Downhill skiers train for years to compete at this level, fully aware of the dangers. Yet when accidents occur live, the audience is confronted with the fragile reality behind the spectacle. For those watching, the image of Kreinbühl lying motionless on the snow lingered. The helicopter departure symbolized both urgency and hope. Moments like this reveal the human cost behind high-performance competition. They show how quickly triumph can turn into survival. But not every disturbing live moment unfolds on a mountain or inside a stadium. Some happen on ordinary highways, during ordinary mornings, where unsuspecting drivers find themselves caught in chaos they never anticipated. Morning traffic reports usually follow a familiar pattern: congestion updates, weather delays, estimated commute times, viewers half listening while preparing for work. It is background information, steady and predictable. That routine shattered when broadcasters abruptly cut into programming with live helicopter footage of a high-speed police pursuit on Interstate 95. The camera locked onto a dark SUV weaving aggressively through dense morning traffic. Cars scattered as it darted between lanes. Brake lights flashed in every direction. Multiple law enforcement vehicles followed closely behind with lights and sirens activated. From above, the scene looked chaotic. On the ground, it was terrifying. Interstate 95 is one of the busiest highways in the United States, carrying thousands of commuters every hour through major metropolitan corridors. A high-speed pursuit on such a roadway does not only involve officers and suspects, it involves families, workers, and drivers who simply happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. High-speed chases have long been a subject of national debate. According to data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, hundreds of people are killed in police pursuits each year, and a significant portion of those fatalities involve bystanders rather than suspects. Because of this, many departments have adopted stricter policies, weighing the severity of the alleged crime against the potential danger of continuing the chase. In this case, the pursuit continued. The SUV swerved across multiple lanes in an apparent attempt to exit the highway at high speed. The maneuver was abrupt and reckless. Within seconds, it clipped other vehicles and struck a barrier near the off-ramp. The impact was violent. The SUV flipped, rolling across the pavement before landing upside down. Debris scattered across lanes. Nearby civilian vehicles were struck in the chain reaction, their drivers caught without warning in a live televised crash. The helicopter camera did not waver. Viewers watched officers approach the overturned SUV cautiously, with weapons drawn. One suspect crawled out through a shattered rear window. Another followed. A third and fourth were pulled from the wreckage moments later. All were placed face down on the pavement and taken into custody. Meanwhile, emergency responders rushed to check on innocent drivers whose vehicles had been damaged. One woman sat on the roadside appearing shaken but conscious. Paramedics assessed others inside crumpled cars, ensuring there were no life-threatening injuries. The broadcast remained live throughout. Anchors described the unfolding scene carefully, emphasizing that this was not just a criminal pursuit, but a dangerous situation for everyday commuters. What made the moment especially unsettling was how ordinary it began. People driving to work, listening to morning radio, thinking about meetings or errands. Then, in seconds, finding themselves surrounded by flashing lights, spinning vehicles, and a helicopter overhead broadcasting it all to the world. Once the suspects were secured, traffic came to a complete standstill. Investigators closed sections of the highway for hours, reconstructing the sequence of events. Authorities later examined what initiated the pursuit and whether policy decisions were justified under the circumstances. For viewers watching from home, the incident underscored a sobering reality. Chaos rarely announces itself. It interrupts routine without warning. Live television captured every stage of the event. Reckless driving, the violent rollover, the arrests, the aftermath. There were no edits, no delay, only the raw progression from pursuit to collision. And while this unfolded on a highway in the middle of a workday, it revealed something universal. Control on public roads can vanish instantly. The illusion of safety we carry into our daily commute can dissolve in a matter of seconds. High-speed chases are often framed as dramatic spectacles, but moments like this expose their human cost, not only for those being pursued, but for the innocent drivers whose lives are disrupted or endangered. Live television brings that reality directly into living rooms, and as disturbing as a highway pursuit can be, it is not the only setting where vulnerability is exposed without warning, because inside stadiums and arenas, under bright lights and roaring crowds, danger can strike just as suddenly, and when it does, the silence that follows can feel just as heavy. Two players dropped their gloves and engaged in a fight, each attempting to assert control and defend pride. Fighting has long been part of hockey's culture, though its role has been debated extensively. In this context, the altercation felt heavier than usual. The earlier injury lingered in everyone's mind. Baseball is often described as a slower, more methodical sport. There are pauses between pitches, conversations on the mound, time for anticipation. But beneath that rhythm lies a harsh physical reality. When a professional hitter makes solid contact, the ball can leave the bat at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. Modern tracking systems regularly record exit velocities above that mark. For a pitcher standing just 60 feet and 6 inches from home plate, that leaves less than 4/10 of a second to react. In many cases, even less. During one game, a sharply hit line drive exploded off the bat at approximately 101 miles per hour. The ball traveled on a direct path back toward the mound. There was no arc, no warning bounce, just a straight, unforgiving trajectory. It struck pitcher Dan Jennings almost instantly. He had barely completed his follow-through when the ball made contact. There was no time to turn fully, no time to shield himself. The impact knocked him to the ground. The sound of the bat meeting the ball was followed by a collective gasp. Then the stadium fell into a silence that felt heavier than any crowd noise. Tens of thousands of fans stood watching as Jennings attempted to move. He appeared unsteady as he tried to rise. Teammates rushed toward him immediately, their body language reflecting concern rather than competition. Medical staff sprinted from the dugout carrying equipment, including a backboard and protective gear as a precaution. Broadcasters lowered their tone, explaining the physics behind the incident. At 100 miles per hour, a baseball can travel from bat to mound in roughly 4/10 of a second. Human reaction time averages around 2/10 of a second under ideal conditions. That leaves almost no margin for a defensive response. In recent years, Major League Baseball has revisited the issue of pitcher safety multiple times. Several high-profile incidents involving line drives have sparked debate about protective headgear. Some pitchers have experimented with reinforced caps designed to absorb impact. Others resist, citing discomfort, weight, or the deeply ingrained traditions of the sport. The conversation continues, balancing heritage with evolving safety science. As Jennings remained on the mound, the emotional tension grew. Cameras captured fans covering their mouths. Some bowed their heads, others held phones, but did not record, simply watching in stunned silence. Eventually, medical personnel assisted Jennings onto a cart. He was transported for further evaluation amid sustained applause from the crowd. Later reports confirmed he had suffered a head injury, but avoided life-threatening consequences. Considering the speed and direct impact, the outcome could have been far worse. The image of a pitcher collapsing after a line drive is deeply unsettling because baseball is not perceived as a violent sport. There are no routine collisions like in football or hockey, no high-speed crashes like in racing. Injuries in baseball often feel sudden and unexpected. One pitch, one swing, then immediate danger. What made this moment particularly powerful was the clarity of the broadcast. Multiple camera angles replayed the hit, each showing how little time Jennings had to react. The physics were undeniable. The vulnerability was undeniable. The silence inside the stadium communicated what words could not. It was a shared recognition among players and fans that beneath baseball's slower pace lies a level of risk shaped by raw velocity and human limits. Live television captured the entire arc of the moment. The crack of the bat, the collapse, the cautious medical response. The cart leaves the field. For viewers at home, it was a sobering reminder that danger does not always arrive with warning signs. Sometimes it appears in less than half a second. And while some live moments are accidents of timing and physics, others emerge from something far less mechanical: emotion, frustration, pride pushed beyond control. And when those forces erupt in professional arenas, the result can be just as disturbing as any collision or crash. Professional basketball thrives on rhythm and momentum. Fast breaks ignite crowds. Defensive stops shift energy. Strategic plays unfold with precision. Even in the most intense matchups, there is usually an unspoken agreement among players that competition will remain within certain boundaries. Physical contact is part of the game, but control is expected. Occasionally, that control disappears. During one nationally televised matchup, what began as a routine foul quickly escalated into something far more volatile. A player drove aggressively toward the basket and was met with heavy contact. Hard fouls are common in professional basketball. Players absorb them and move on. But this particular moment carried an emotional charge that ignited almost instantly. Words were exchanged. At first, it seemed like a typical disagreement. Players often talked through frustration after physical plays. But within seconds, voices rose, bodies closed in, teammates stepped between opponents. Then the pushing began. The confrontation intensified rapidly. One player became visibly enraged, attempting to move past teammates to confront an opponent directly. Coaching staff and fellow players grabbed him, trying to restrain him before the situation worsened. Another player left the bench area and stepped onto the court, violating one of the league's most strictly enforced rules. Cameras captured everything. The broadcast shifted from play-by-play commentary to stunned observation. Announcers struggled to maintain composure as they described what viewers were seeing. Their tone reflected the tension unfolding in real time. Security personnel moved quickly toward the court. Coaches rushed in, attempting to separate players before the situation escalated further. Professional basketball leagues enforce strict policies regarding on-court altercations. Leaving the bench during a confrontation can result in automatic suspension, regardless of whether the player becomes physically involved. These rules exist because history has shown how quickly emotions can spiral. One of the most infamous examples occurred in 2004 during the Malice at the Palace, when a player altercation escalated into a large-scale incident involving fans. Since then, leagues have tightened enforcement to prevent similar scenarios. The most unsettling aspect of this moment was not simply the physical confrontation, it was the emotional intensity displayed live. Viewers watched athletes known for discipline and composure struggle to contain frustration in front of millions. The polished image of professional competition briefly gave way to raw human emotion. Inside the arena, fans reacted with a mixture of shock and confusion. Some stood to get a clearer view. Others pulled out phones to record. Many simply watched in disbelief as officials attempted to restore order. The energy that normally fuels excitement in a basketball arena shifted into uneasy silence. After several tense minutes, referees announced multiple ejections. Players involved were escorted off the court by team staff and security. The game eventually resumed, but the atmosphere had changed. What had once been a competitive contest now felt heavier, more cautious. Broadcasters later analyzed the incident, discussing how competitive pressure, physical play, and emotional investment can combine to create volatile situations. Professional athletes operate under intense scrutiny. Every action is magnified. Every reaction is broadcast. Maintaining composure under those conditions requires constant discipline. For viewers at home, the confrontation felt deeply uncomfortable. Live television removed any sense of distance. There was no editing, no delay, no buffer between audience and event. Only raw emotion unfolding in real time under bright arena lights. Moments like this reveal a fundamental truth about live broadcasts. They capture not only skill and achievement, but also vulnerability. Even in highly structured environments with clear rules and oversight, human emotion can override control. When that happens, the world watches simultaneously. Yet despite the intensity of this confrontation, it still unfolded within a controlled setting. Officials intervened. Security restored order. The game continued. Not every live moment ends with such resolution, because sometimes, when competition spills beyond the final whistle and adrenaline refuses to fade, the result can become far more unpredictable. Motorsport has always been a world defined by precision and adrenaline. Every movement on the track is calculated. Every fraction of a second matters. Riders and drivers train for years to master control at extreme speeds. knowing that even the smallest mistake can carry serious consequences. Yet beneath the discipline and professionalism lies intense pressure. When that pressure erupts into visible conflict, the result can be as unsettling as any crash. During a televised speedway race inside a packed arena, two competitors battled fiercely for position as the event neared its conclusion. Speedway racing is particularly intense. Riders navigate tight oval tracks at high speed on machines without traditional brakes, relying on throttle control and balance to maintain stability. Races are often decided by inches, and the final lap carries enormous emotional weight. On this occasion, the tension was evident. Both riders pushed aggressively, leaning into turns and accelerating through the final stretch. Victory was within reach. The margin between first and second was razor thin. As they approached the finish, contact occurred. One rider's line intersected with the other's trajectory, sending both briefly off balance. At speed, even minor contact can destabilize a motorcycle. Within seconds, both riders lost control and fell onto the track. At first, it appeared to be a routine racing incident. In motorsport, close contact and occasional crashes are expected risks. Riders are trained to recover quickly, assess injuries, and move away from danger. Both competitors rose almost immediately, seemingly uninjured. Officials prepared to evaluate the incident and confirm the race result. Then, something changed. Instead of walking away, the riders turned toward each other. Words were exchanged. Their body language grew tense. What began as a heated discussion escalated rapidly. Gestures turned sharper. Voices rose. Within moments, the confrontation became physical. They began fighting on the track. Broadcast cameras captured every second. Commentators, who moments earlier had been describing the race's dramatic finish, shifted tone immediately. Surprise and disbelief filled their voices as they attempted to explain what viewers were witnessing. Track officials rushed in. Marshals and team personnel moved quickly to separate the riders before the situation worsened. The altercation lasted only a short time, but for viewers watching live, it felt far longer. The contrast between the controlled intensity of racing and the sudden eruption of physical conflict was jarring. Professional motorsport operates under strict codes of conduct. Governing bodies emphasize discipline and sportsmanship, particularly because races are broadcast to global audiences. Physical altercations can result in fines, suspensions, and disciplinary hearings. Maintaining professionalism is considered essential to the integrity of the sport. Eventually, officials succeeded in separating the riders. As tension subsided, both appeared to regain composure. Brief gestures of acknowledgement followed, suggesting the immediate conflict had passed. Still, the emotional impact lingered. For audiences, the incident disrupted the illusion of controlled competition. Motorsport already carries inherent danger. High speeds, mechanical risk, and the potential for severe injury are always present. Seeing competitors engage in a physical confrontation after surviving a crash introduced an additional layer of unpredictability. Live television provided no distance from the moment. Viewers watched frustration, adrenaline, and pride collide under arena lights. The raw emotion on display contrasted sharply with the polished professionalism typically associated with elite competition. In post-race discussions, commentators reflected on the psychological intensity athletes experience. Racing demands complete focus under extreme pressure. When that pressure peaks, emotional responses can sometimes override composure. Experts in sports psychology often note that adrenaline does not immediately dissipate after competition ends. It lingers, amplifying reactions in the moments that follow. The incident became a reminder that live broadcasts capture not only victory and spectacle, but also the unfiltered human emotions behind them. Even highly trained professionals can struggle to contain frustration in high-stakes environments. Competition pushes individuals to their limits, occasionally beyond them. When those limits are crossed on live television, the result can feel deeply unsettling, not because conflict is unexpected, but because it unfolds without warning in front of millions, across different sports and settings. Moments like this share a common thread. They reveal how quickly control can dissolve, how thin the boundary is between routine competition and chaos. Live television offers no rewinds, no filters, no second chances, only the reality of what happens when the unexpected unfolds in real time, before a global audience. And that brings us to the end of this episode. If you found this video informative, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss what we drop next. We cover stories like this almost every day, And trust me, you don't want to be left behind. If you can't wait until the next upload, there are more videos popping up on your screen in just a few seconds. Click one and keep watching. Until then, take care. I'm out.